Hi, I'm Jess Curren. I live in Lehi, and I have been doing photography for about 6 or 7 years. You always kind of lose track. I specialize in weddings, and I'm slowly moving into more lifestyle families. Is a lot of what I do. And I am going over, what I'm going over is the library module. So up here, as we've kind of discussed this as presenters, we're kind of each doing a little section. So up here is the library module, the develop module, map, book, slideshow, print. So as presenters, we're kind of going over sections of each of these, kind of what we're good at, what we specialize in, what we use a lot. So the library module, typically for those of you, has anyone not ever used Lightroom before? Ever? We're all pretty good. Okay. The library module is definitely is most commonly used for sorting and rating and culling your images. So you come home from a shoot, you upload your images, and then you have all these pictures, and you're obviously not going to give them all to your clients. You've got to be able to sort them somehow. The first thing I do, and I actually do this on import, is that I add keywords to my photos. So right here under keywording, and you can do this on import as well, you can type in tags. So like, family photo shoot. Actually, you have to highlight them all first. And you can tell these have actually already been tagged. A lot of these have. And when there's a little asterisk, that means that not all of the pictures have that particular keyword on them. And this will come in handy later because I'm going to show you how to actually sort by keywords. So that's one thing, that's where that is. When I bring my photos in, typically what I do, first thing I do is I go down here to my filters. And do we have Sam? Are you giving us a 2-minute? Okay. I come down here to my filters and I use the flags. There's a lot of different ways that you can actually sort your images. I'm not saying that my way is the best way. It is just really fast and it works really well with my workflow. I'll touch on some of the other ones, but this is the one that I'm going to focus on. So down here you have rejected. Right here, this one on the right, you have unflagged and you have flagged. And so when I bring all of my images in, I click on the little unflagged button. So it's showing me all of my images that have no rating on them at all. So then as I start going through my images, I can then flag and reject them as I go. Before I do that, let me show you the different views. This right here is called grid view. Obviously that's like a grid of your photos. You can make your thumbnails bigger or smaller, depending on how blind you are, I guess, or how big you want to see them. And then the other ones that I use a lot are, there's my menu. So view up here, and I always learn your shortcuts. That's one of the biggest things that will save you a ton of time is if you use the little keyword shortcuts. They're always over here on this side. So this is grid view. Loop view I use a lot. It's just one image, and that's E. You can also do compare. I actually don't use compare a whole lot when you select multiple images and you can be like, oh, which one do I like better? To do that, I actually really like survey view. And survey view is nice because you can do more than one image. So if you've got 5 images of a bride or a family or whatever it is you're shooting, you just highlight them all and it will show you all of the images together, which is really nice when I'm comparing and I'm like, okay, let me bring up all the ones that are same, and I'm like, okay, let me figure out which ones I want. So back to my sorting, I'll bring up 5 or 6 images or whatever I can fit on my screen and still see very clearly, and I'm like, great, I love this one. I'm going to pick it. So P is pick. I just hit pick. And you can see down here on the bottom, it's disappeared from my thumbnails down here. So I always know that I'm starting on the left-hand side. I don't have to be like, okay, where did I leave off and which one am I on? Because it drops them automatically out of my unflagged view because it now has a flag on it. So I'm like, oh, this one's kind of lame. I don't really like that one. Sorry, whoever's photo this is. I'm going to exit because that's reject. So now it's been rejected. I'm like, hey, I like this one. I don't like that one. That one's great. And then I pull up, my next set of images. Pretend these are all similar. I'm like, great, pick, X, pick. And I just go through my entire session that way. A lot of times, too, when I'm done sorting, I'm doing one bypass through it. You can come down here, and if I take off the flag and I put on, or the unflag and I put on the flag, I can then see, okay, these are all the images that I flagged that I want to look at again. And sometimes I'll do a second pass through the same way, because a lot of times, as you go through, you're like, oh man, I picked 5 pictures that are pretty identical, I'm pretty sure my client does not need to see all of those photos. So you can often do a second pass, and it goes pretty quickly. And the nice part too is that once you've rejected your photos and you're kind of done with your session and your client's happy and you've made lots of money, you can come up here to your menu and you just hit delete rejected photos, which I won't do right now, and that will just delete all of your rejects right off your hard drive, because we all know that we don't want to save all of our rejected photos on our hard drive because it takes up space and we have to pay for that space. So that's my flagging system. Like I said, I use survey mode a lot, and I use the E, and a lot of times when I'm in E loop view, see, I just think of it by the shortcuts now. If you click Z, it will zoom in. So a lot of times if I'm looking at a picture and I'm not quite sure if it's like totally in focus, I can just hit zoom really quick, and then I'm like, oh, that one's great. Let me keep that one, or whatever, and you can just use the keyboard shortcuts. Up here is your zoom level, so like you can decide how far you want to. Zoom only does one level, so it's in and out. So I don't know what it's set on 3:1. If I'm like, oh, that's too close, let me back it out a little bit. So I'll click on that, and then when I zoom in, it's not as far at all. Or like there's a 4:1, you can see like his eyelashes. Okay, so that's pretty much how I flag. There's a ton of different ways to do it. Down here under your filters, you have rated is another really popular one. You can star images. I know a lot of people that will like 3-star everything on their way through, and then you can just be like, hey, I want to see everything with 3 stars or greater, and you can change this little icon right here to greater than equal to, less than or equal to, and you can adjust like how many stars. Sometimes I'll do that if I have like a really great image that I know I want to go on my blog. I'll quickly like 5-star it so that I can find it again really quickly among all of my picked images. You can also, isn't there a color one somewhere? There's also colors. I'm not sure where it went. Anyway, it's in there somewhere. There's a bunch you can play around with. Right there. And then one of the last things I wanted to do was just to quickly show you how to sort by metadata, in which you can only really do in the grid mode. So you come up here to your library, and I'm in grid, and then up here you can click on metadata, and it will show you all the metadata for all of the pictures that it's pulled in from your camera. And up here you can actually change this little drop down menu, maybe right there. So there's a ton of information you can use. A lot of times I'll do it by keyword. And let me clear my filter so you guys can see all the pictures. There we go. So there's all the keywords. You can be like, okay, this is all of these images flagged with that keyword. Or a lot of times, like with a second shooter at a wedding, I'll do it by camera type. So it'll bring up all the different cameras used. So if I'm like, okay, I just want to do my second shooter images all at once, I'll do those first, and then I'll go through and do mine. So that's pretty much how I edit. Well, it's not pretty much how I edit. That's pretty much how I cull all of my sessions. And then obviously once I've culled them all and I've got all my picked images, then I'll go in the develop module and actually edit them. So if you have any questions, write them down. I'm happy to answer anything. Even if it's not something that you have a question about that I didn't even cover, I might be able to help you, give you an answer. So, okay, that's it for me. Good time, right? Okay.